Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturient Society.
Welcome back,
Woo!
everybody. It feels like a long time coming. That over there is Carissa Harlow, aka Catherine, aka Lewis, and I am your other host, Ash, aka Tolkien. We did a hiatus week last week, which was for holidays. Maybe I'm gonna say we'll do another one for the holidays. Really, I think what we'll do is our joint Christmas
Yeah,
holiday party is coming up, which where we
yeah.
partner with our sister podcast under the Story Siren Studio production company because we're sister podcasts, and it's going to be so fun. And I don't know if your Christmas gift has gotten there, but I'm
It
excited because
has.
I good. See, I want you and Kendall to open yours
Okay,
on the pod
I
again. I'm
figured.
very
I
excited.
it came in the mail, and I was sitting there staring at it. I'm like, I didn't order anything, because I just ordered books with like my free points on my credit card,
Heck yeah.
and I was like, this is amazing. And they all came, and I'm like, I could have sworn they were all here, and I almost opened it, and then I was like, oh, you know what? It's probably from Ash. So
I should have been like, hey, by the way, I think it's getting there today. I was like, it'll be fine. I just
it'll be
won't say
fine.
anything.
I figured it out. It was fine. So
Oh, I'm so glad. Like I totally did not give you any heads up. But
okay.
anyways, Carissa, how have you been for the last 2 weeks?
Gosh, it feels like it's been such a long time. I've been good.
Yeah.
I have some updates I'm going to save for the writing update portion. Are you okay?
Yeah, I burned my lip on my tea, but continue.
Oh, all right. Most of my updates are writing related, so I'm going to save most of that for later. What have I been doing? Thanksgiving happened. Thanksgiving was
Oh
fun.
yeah. Hmm.
I didn't really do anything the day of, but the day after, my mom's side of the family, we kind of like
Oh,
gathered
we
and
did the
had dessert and
same.
played games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so that was fun. I've been, again, I'll go into more detail later, but I've been really out of it because of the book I wrote. And I took a wrong turn on the way to my aunt and uncle's house, and I ended up in this alley. And
That is so
I
sketchy.
I had to back out of the entire alley because I kept going. I was like, I think there's a way through. There's not. There's just a different house at the end of the alley. So I
Oh
had to
my
back
God.
out as far as I could. And then I was just like in a weird mood from then on because whenever I hit a weird driving snag, are you okay again?
I'm sorry. We
It's
have a
okay.
new cat, and she just came out
Oh,
of nowhere and she reached up and she just touched my finger. I had no idea
nice.
she was there. I was like, what? It felt the way it
What's
felt like
happening?
someone grabbed my hand. It felt like a tiny hand grabbed my hand.
Oh,
It
oh my
was so
gosh.
scary. Anyway, sorry,
Anyway,
continue.
so it's okay. Whenever I do something weird driving, I'm off for the rest of the day because I'm literally sitting there thinking I could have died and I didn't. Even though I wasn't gonna die. The worst that was gonna happen is I would have gotten like in a small accident and had to repair my car. But my brain always goes to what if I had died? So then I
Yeah,
was just in a weird mood the whole night.
naturally.
Yeah, yeah, as you do when you're me. Um, and then a couple days ago, so Luna, one of our little puppies, right? She started
Yes.
limping, and we were like, "Oh no, what's wrong?" And because like she
Mhm.
and Aurora play pretty hard sometimes, and
Yeah.
sometimes they get hurt and they'll yelp, but then they're fine.
Yeah.
Um, and Luna's always the one that hurts herself the most. So they
This
went
is
to the
new
vet,
cat,
or
by
she
the
went to the
way.
vet. Oh,
Sorry to
hello, new
interrupt, but
cat.
she just
It's
jumped up
okay.
here. This is
Aw.
Sybil. Yeah, Sybil. I'm not sure
Um,
what you're doing.
so the vet essentially shaved her paw to see what was wrong. And essentially, it's probably just like a pulled tendon and it just has to heal
Hmm.
on its own. It's not a big deal. She has like painkillers that we're giving her. But it's been so long since they were groomed that Luna now just has this, she's fluffy, and then there's this single paw that is it's just her paw. There's like no fur on it anymore. It looks like she's on stilts,
I love that
or
so
something like
much.
that. And so my mom and I have been calling her Littlefoot, like the dinosaur, because she has this little foot.
Oh my gosh, Littlefoot.
It's so cute. And
Oh,
she's not limping so much anymore, so she'll just walk up to you or be laying there, and there's this very normal paw on the right, and then her left paw is just like super skinny and looks kind of weird but also kind of cute. So
I
that's
need a
cute.
picture of this. I love when
I
animals
know.
are partially shaven, not fully
Yeah,
shaven, just partially.
it's so funny.
That is
So
delightful.
yeah. I think that's about it. To sum up, I don't even remember the last time I talked to you.
I know.
So there's that. But yeah, so that was my 2 weeks, Thanksgiving and dog things and writing that I will get to later.
Oh, well, that's fun. Yeah, I feel like during the holiday season, recording is always weird because of holiday plans. We end up like skipping a week or like mashing up together
Mhm.
and recording like multiple in one day. So then we
Yeah.
don't talk on our usual.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, the last couple weeks for me, I got to see my husband, so that was
Mhm.
nice. And we went to the Harry Potter Yule Ball in
Yes,
Houston.
that's right. Oh my
It
gosh, how was it?
was amazing. It was
Yes.
so cool. That's my Harry Potter scarf in the background if you guys are watching this on
Nice.
YouTube. Because Hobby had one and now I have one and mine is actually better. So, like we got to get
Obviously.
dressed up in like full like formal Yule Ball stuff and he wore his robes. I don't have any unfortunately, but that's okay because I still look gorgeous. I got to wear I just happened to have one formal dress that I got from Windsor at the mall. And if anyone
Mhm.
here has ever been to Windsor, it's like the dollar store of formal wear. And so I'm shocked that it hasn't fallen apart yet. I wore it once for half an hour, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was afraid that when I put it back in my closet, I almost didn't. I was almost like, I don't think this is going to last for another wear. But it happens to be Gryffindor colors and happens to
Mhm.
perfectly match one of Hobby's two nice shirts. He has two nice shirts.
Oh my
And so,
gosh.
and we're both Gryffindors, so it was very exciting. And
That
by
is
the way,
so
I did
cool.
the test that you taught me, which I think was
Yeah.
in our last episode.
Mhm.
Um, he is definitely a Gryffindor.
Yeah.
No
Nice.
hesitation. He was like,
Cool,
break the door
cool.
down. That was it
Yeah. You're
immediately.
like, we're perfect for each other.
I know. I was like, wow, we really nailed this whole thing. It was great.
Together, you would absolutely get through the door. So,
Yeah, exactly. With the two of us, sure. Anyway, so that was fun. And then we also had Thanksgiving the day after Thanksgiving because my sister and brother-in-law and baby Grayson are all down here
yeah.
now. And I'm so glad. And so Grayson got to stay with us for like a week. So I was I had a business trip. So no, Javi got back. The next day I went on a business trip. The next day I came back from the business trip and then I was babysitting Grayson for like 3 or 4 days while her parents were driving down because Madison
Mhm.
came down, my sister, and dropped off Grayson with us to watch so they wouldn't have to do like, a cross country road trip with the baby because that sounds really
Fair.
difficult.
Yeah.
And Javi got sick during this time. So I was also
Oh,
like trying to keep him alive. And men are kind of babies about being
yeah.
sick, but he also was really sick and I felt bad for him. So that was fun, but I got to hang out with Gravy and
Oh.
yeah, and they're in a beautiful apartment and yeah, so that's good. There was always chaos because there's always chaos just in life in general. So it was a little
Mm.
wild and I was exhausted, but it was
Yeah.
fun. And now I can't remember, did I tell you that Hobby is getting me a puppy?
Yes, you
Okay.
did.
So we decided on a name for her. Her name is
Ah,
going to be Ruby.
I
And
love it.
I know, I'm really excited. I thought you would particularly like it.
Mhm.
So I'm very excited because I think that Ruby O'Rourke sounds really good. And I've also been like,
Yes.
I'm going to call her Rue and Ruru and
I love
Kangaroo and
it.
Kanga and
All the
Charles.
names.
Yeah, just get that last one there.
Charles.
Yeah, because Hobby gets mad that I call the animals everything but their actual name. So I was like, I'm going
Mhm.
to intentionally do that in as
Get it
different a
really
way as
wrong.
possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's just been on my list of what I'm going to call this puppy, and I'm so excited. Um,
Yay.
but I have to miss like my actual company holiday party that I was supposed to fly out for because I got the pickup day for our puppy wrong, and it turns out it's on the day of the holiday party, and I have to drive
Oh,
like 4 hours there and 4 hours back, and I don't have my car right now. I've been borrowing cars because Bobby has my car, and so
oh,
Caleb, my brother, has to drive me there and back to get the puppy.
nice
So
road
that's gonna be
trip.
fun. Yeah, and then I'm excited about the puppy. It's pretty much all I'm
Yeah.
thinking about. So
I
that's pretty
remember
much it.
that was me in March.
Yeah,
Gosh, it's so exciting.
I know. It's weird because usually not that we've been like impulsive like pet adopters, but I guess like when you adopt a pet, it's just a lot faster process. And like if you have to be on the waiting list for a puppy, because like
Mhm.
if you want a hypoallergenic dog, there's typically you have to be on a long waiting list for that. This is she's a golden retriever, and there's always really long waiting lists for goldens. And don't come
Yep.
at me, folks. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I've adopted from shelters. I will continue to adopt from a shelter. But in this case, we specifically needed a golden for our purposes. And so I'm so beyond thrilled. I'm so excited. But
Yay.
yeah, anyways, so that's pretty much been my 2 weeks. And now it's time for Christmas. And I am so excited.
Yeah. I know. I
Woo.
love Christmas. It's great.
Yeah,
I kind of miss how excited I used to get about it when I was younger.
I know.
it doesn't hit me now until like a day before. And then I'm like, well, I can't fully enjoy it now. And as a
Definitely been the
kid, I
last
was
couple
like,
years.
why won't it come this day? And I didn't enjoy it either. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things
Human
where like
nature.
when you're a kid, you don't appreciate that you're a kid. And then when you're an adult, you can't appreciate that you're an adult. So
100%. Basically, as a human, you are not allowed to appreciate the state of
Mhm.
existence that you're currently in. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to.
Yeah, you're always looking forward or back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. But I'm more excited for Christmas this year than I have been for a while. And
You have a
Javi,
baby there,
yes, there's
so
gonna be a
I mean, it'll
baby.
be exciting with
My
her.
whole family's in the state. We have a
Mhm.
house now, and usually it's always been like, okay, so how are we gonna like whose apartment are we gonna go cram into, and how
Yeah.
are we gonna do the whole parking situation? Because
Yeah.
parking is always limited. And so this year, because we have a house, I mean a tiny one, but still there's plenty of parking. And so
Yeah.
the whole family's here. So we've always had to be feeling with just like a couple people there, a couple people there. We don't have a very big family to begin with. So when it's like even just cut down to who can actually be there, it's like it feels like there's like three of us like kind of just staring at each other. um so I'm psyched for that. And the baby makes it just all so much more
Mhm.
fun. And Ruby will be here by then, which is
Yay.
exciting. And Javi gets to be home for Christmas, and I didn't
Oh,
think he was gonna
good.
get to. He left the
Yeah.
day before Thanksgiving, and up until like yesterday, I was like 90% sure he wouldn't be able to be home for Christmas. So, which is not the end of the
Right.
world. We would just celebrate another time. But it's so
Mhm.
exciting that we're actually gonna, for the first time in like a million years, have everybody for Christmas.
Yeah. That's pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Yay.
including Sybil, which is we traded Brownie for Sybil, my sweet Brownie
That's the
doll.
cat.
Yes, Sybil is the cat, is my sister's cat, and Sybil and Dom, my sister's husband, just never really jived. He's not really a cat
Mhm.
person. We're cat obsessed people. We just
Yeah.
collect them.
I've
You can like
noticed.
literally see her. Yeah, I know. Our old chicken coop, I actually think I'm going to turn into a cattery because we can't stop collecting cats, and there's not room for all of them in the house.
Is that a
So
real word? A cattery?
cattery, I don't know. If it's not, it should
I
be.
like it.
I feel like
Yeah.
it should be. And it's kind of like the perfect like size and shape for a cattery. So I think we're
Mhm.
gonna do it.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's exciting. Also, Winchester and Raoul are getting neutered this weekend. So
Ah, fun stuff.
oh yeah. Yeah, they don't know what's gonna happen yet, but it couldn't come a moment too soon because Winchester's been jumping on everybody and he accidentally gave my mom a fat lip. He's not
Oh,
he's not being aggressive. He just wants to
yeah.
play, and he
Yeah.
has no idea that when he jumps up, he is like 7 feet tall, like
Right.
literally 7 feet tall, not an
Super
exaggeration.
big.
Yeah, super big, and he's super fluffy, and he's a big heavy boy, and
Mhm.
so he really could easily he like body slammed me today, and I went flying, like I almost
Oh,
fell to the ground, but I caught myself on a fence, and I was so mad. And like
yeah.
I said, like he gave my mom a fat lip, and I felt so bad. So he's just getting a little rowdy, which makes sense. It is
Mhm.
definitely time. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
Raoul is he's just a pretty little cat boy, but he lives outside, and I'm like, don't you dare go get all the neighbors' cats pregnant. Don't you
You
do
stay
that.
here.
He's like, I'm too lazy for that. He pretty much just like sleeps in
Like,
Winchester's bed
I'm not
during the day.
interested in girl cats. All right, I just want to sleep.
I just want to sleep all
I
the
feel
time.
that.
Maybe catch a grasshopper, pretty much eat the
Yeah.
dog's food and not eat my food. Like that's pretty much
Good
what he wants
time.
to do. Yeah.
What else is life but this?
He lives like the most chill life, but
Yeah.
to be a responsible pet owner, even of an adopted outdoor stray, we're doing
Yeah.
the neutering.
Do you have to
thing.
license your pets? Because here, if they're spayed, they're cheaper to license.
License? You have to get a pet license?
Mm-hmm. You essentially
What
just have to
kind
like
of tyrannical, unnecessarily authoritarian state are you living in?
one of the non-tyrannical ones. Anyway,
I know that's why I'm confused. I'm
I
like,
know
really?
it
Why?
I was surprised too, but it's essentially so that I think it's part of like
You have to pay
pet
money?
control and yeah, and essentially like if they're not spayed or neutered, they're possibly going to create more animals, so you have to pay more for that. I think it's just so that they know how many pets
it's
are
a
in the state.
government just nickel and
I know.
diming you. That's what it
I
is.
feel you, Ash. I hate it too, but they do
It's
get
just a
these
stealth
cute little
tax.
bone-shaped licenses that to put on their collars. So I mean, yay for that.
I could buy you a cone-shaped, a bone-shaped license to put on your dog's collar.
I know. It's not that bad, but
I mean, I guess
all
the
right.
concept does make sense. But
Yeah.
I feel like
It also makes sense that you didn't know that was a thing because
no, because it seems
Texas.
very odd. Texas definitely doesn't. I do see the wisdom though in saying here you don't have to pay money if it's or what is it if it's a if your
It's
pet
just
is spayed?
less.
It's just less.
Less money. Yeah. Like significantly, but it's less.
Strong. See, I disagree with that. My libertarian side is coming out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. We don't charge people for having pets. I do see, though, creating some sort of benefit for people who have their pets spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. And I
Yeah.
think it still creates the same solution, but it doesn't unnecessarily tax the people for having a pet. But I won't
feel
go
you,
off
Ash.
on my libertarian.
You know what's funny though?
What?
I don't know how they would know if you had an unlicensed pet. Like, unless the pet got lost and someone from the government found it.
This is often the thing with stealth taxes too. Like they tax you because it's not really a tax, but it kind of is. Like they do it for stuff. It's like they would never know if you didn't, but you could still technically get in trouble if they somehow found out. But how would they find out?
Safe, but
yeah, except for that some people don't. So then those are the people who would be quote unquote irresponsible anyways. So like,
true.
Once again, this is the problem.
It is a lot of
the double-edged sword.
Yeah, a lot of things like tax wise is like it just punishes the people that follow the rules. And I'm like, somehow can we switch that?
Yeah, it's a lot of laws, unfortunately. And I'm not going to go full anarchist and say let's not have laws because that's not a good idea. Right. But it does mean that, and just people, I'm going to go off on this for a second. Okay. People have a lot more faith that laws can make people behave well and decently than those laws actually have the power to do. Like this has been like my catchphrase for the last 2 years, and every time I say it I believe it more. So I'm like indoctrinating myself. I do stand by this though. I think there's a lot of logic to it, and a lot of people would agree across the board. Whatever you lean, it doesn't matter. You cannot legislate morality. You can't. So that's the problem when a law's entire purpose is like to define morality in one way or another. Like, hey, it's a good thing. It's better to, get your pet spayed or neutered. So there's not a bunch of, puppies, homeless puppies or kittens running around with diseases and they're getting sick and they're dying and they're having horrible lives, or they're getting abused, or they're having like horrible, lives. Yeah. So morally speaking, good idea to get your pet spayed or neutered. But the people who weren't doing that were already not going to do it. Because you can't legislate morality. So you can say, hey, we will, you guys will give you a pet license if you do this, and it'll be less. They're not, those people who weren't going to do it, they're not going to go get their pet license anyways. Yeah. So that's just a tiny little example. But anyways, this is how I strongly feel about laws.
It's so funny because I think you would either really love or hate the book I just wrote, because that's kind of a certain theme to it. Because really, I agree with you, but also aren't like most laws legislating morality anyway? And really the purpose of the law isn't to prevent behavior, it's to be able to punish it afterwards.
Yeah.
So like murder is illegal and that's legislating morality. But it's also not necessarily going to prevent all of it. It's just so that when someone does murder, you can put them in jail.
I think it's the levels of morality, because this is why I can't say go full anarchy, have no laws, because that doesn't work. I think it's the level of, I'm going to just quote Matt Kibbe, who I think is a good, just standard bar for if you guys are like, what is a libertarian? Like that's Matt Kibbe. And his catchphrase for this is across the board. If you had to condense like what libertarians typically think in one sentence, is don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. And that's kind of the stance that I take as far as laws go. Like, sure, legislate morality in the sense, quote unquote morality, in the sense that it is designed to deter people from hurting other people or taking other people's stuff. So sure. However, I'm not sure how having a dog, an unspayed dog, hurts another human being or is taking their stuff. So to me, legislating that seems like a bad idea. Creating better education for, people to understand like what happens with your pets when you don't know how to care for them properly or you don't get them spayed or neutered. I feel like that would be more effective. Making those procedures more accessible, I think that's great. I'm going to a nonprofit to get my dog and cat taken care of because it was $600 for the cat and $700 at the vet. Okay, that's crazy for the dog. So it's $600 and $700. So at a nonprofit, guess what? The cat is $85 and the dog was $120 because he's an extra large breed. So that is insane. So making people aware that those resources exist. And that's all. It's called Save an Angel is the name of the nonprofit. If you guys have one in your area, they're great. They've been wonderful, super efficient. This is all they do, so they're good at it. Making people aware of those things. So I just think that like when it comes to an issue of morality that's not hurting someone and not taking their stuff, the solution does not lie in legislation, but lies in community resources and educating people about the community resources that are available and creating them where they are not in existence. And there's my soapbox.
I feel you. I could talk about this all day, and we
I
won't
know.
because that's not what this podcast is about. But
yeah, you guys didn't know what you were signing up for today. I
yeah,
haven't had anyone to talk to for 2 weeks, so it's just been building.
exactly, same. But if you do like this kind of stuff, it's one of the themes of my book that will come out in about 20 years because
I'm so excited. Can I read this one that you finished?
you can read it when I do an overhaul edit because it's
Okay,
pretty
sweet.
bad plot whole wise. But other than that, yes.
Fantastic. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see. I'll have to try and put notes in that are like editing just for storytelling purposes and not for like, ooh, but really this politically or whatever.
I mean, it would probably help too. It's really hard. I've been noticing that sometimes there are certain perspectives that's really hard to write because I don't understand them well or I don't know people that think that way. And so it can be good to, broaden out. Like there needs to be a character that's maybe saying the opposite so that what this character is saying means more and etc. So
yeah. I don't know if you noticed that in my book that you just edited recently. I have some of those themes and it touches on like political issues, but like in like a fantasy setting. So I wanted it to be like super veiled because like if you didn't come to this fiction fantasy novel for that, then I wanted you to still fully get to enjoy the book.
Yes.
And I felt like it was really difficult and it's gonna be I plotted out the next 3 books in the series and they all get like increasingly more into it. So I'm like a little intimidated. Like, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to pull this off, but for the same reason, because I'm like, I know what I believe, but I have to also be able to write characters that believe the opposite or believe variations of it just as authentically and with just as like compelling reasoning, which is difficult for me because
it can be hard.
Correct.
Yeah. But this is the only correct way to think.
Yeah.
So
it's very hard to see other people's perspective when you know that you're, in the right.
Yeah, exactly. But alas, we have to be empathetic.
I felt like I sounded really authentically like I felt that way. That was the joke if that didn't land.
Yeah. I got it, but I know you, so
I know you do. You know me and you've stuck with me this long, so you had to accept that about me.
Exactly. But yeah. What's next?
Book recs. We could just get into book recs. Yeah.
I have none. Woo! I haven't been reading at all. It's not great, but I am behind on my Goodreads, but I have come to terms with that because I did other productive things. I do though. I like I said, I ordered books with some points I had, and I have If We Were Villains, and I'm planning to read it soon.
Oh my god, I cannot wait to know.
Yes. So I don't know. Maybe next week I'll have read it. We'll see. But I have nothing otherwise. Yeah. What about you?
I just got a text from CVS saying my order is ready for pickup. I don't have anything. I don't know what they think I ordered.
Do you go to CVS? Okay, here's another random thing. I'm going to try to do this very fast. So I got a text the other day from someone saying, "What's up? Is this Charles at like such and such an address?" And I texted back because I like to be polite, and I said, "Sorry, no, wrong number." And then they texted back and it was something like, "Just a shot in the dark. Would you be wanting to sell any property?" And I was like, was this some kind of phishing scheme I fell for? Like they started out with like, "Oops, wrong number," so that I would respond. And then a few
of those too.
Or was it actually just some guy making a land deal and he's sitting there like, "Hey, maybe I'll just take a shot here." So I didn't respond because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I always go, "No, thanks." But I also am like, I don't know either. I'm like, did you really get confused? Because also for some reason, there's like some properties that my father owns, and I have no idea how they know that we're related. My last name is different now. No idea how they have my phone number, but I will get texts and calls that say like, "Hey, my father's name, this is so-and-so. I noticed your property," and it's a property I'm pretty sure he does own. And they're like, "Would you be interested in selling?" And I get tons of those. And I'm like, how the hell do you have my information?
Yeah. Are you connecting this? My parents still sometimes get texts for me because at one point their phone number was my phone number. So that makes sense. But
yeah, I don't know unless my father is just like, he's like, "You know what? She deserves to just get all of these."
Yeah, it's like, "I'll push this off on Ash.
Puts my number down or something weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh gosh,
very strange.
Anyway, what is your book rec?
My book rec, and I'm not completely finished with it yet. I think I'm like 3/4 of the way through. Is a Christmas one. This was actually a book rec from Lexi Potter, who we all went to college with. Lexi. She's actually joining us over on our sister podcast, That Pretentious Book Club, for our first Christmas episode of the month, which we are doing on Hercule Poirot's Christmas. I think that's what the book is called.
Oh,
It's by Agatha Christie.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. You're learning French. How
Hmm.
are you supposed to pronounce his name? Because I know how I pronounce it in my head, but
Okay, I think it's Poirot. Poirot.
Poirot,
Yeah,
Poirot,
but I always say
Poirot,
Poirot. Does
Poirot.
that,
What about
there's a slight
is it
difference.
Hercule? What? How is his first name?
That was pretty
It's
good. I think
was it
so. Yeah. Yeah.
Hercule?
I do struggle
Hercule
with the pronunciation
Poirot?
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say it with like you have something stuck in your throat.
So that's the
Hercule.
thing about this is the thing about French for me. Hercule Poirot. I can't do his last name. It's so
You're
hard.
Yeah.
Poirot,
I think I
can't
think
do
I
it.
get the accent on it wrong because I always say Poirot and I think
What
it's
is it?
Poirot.
Poirot? Poirot?
Poirot. Yeah, Poirot. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Hercule Poirot. That is it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
definitely it. You're right.
that's it right there. Anyways, but it's his Christmas. It's the book. It's
Cool.
by Agatha Christie.
I was gonna
and
say
it's
because
really
last
good.
year you did a Christmas Carol, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, what other Christmas books are there aside
Yeah,
from modern ones?
That's exactly what we asked ourselves, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what Lexi asked herself. And she's like, "I think Agatha Christie has some." And I was like, "Hang on, a Christmas murder mystery. Let's do it."
Woo!
Yeah, so
I am
I'm
in.
super enjoying it. So I'm not all the way through
Cool.
it, but I'm enjoying it. And Agatha
Mhm.
Christie is one of those authors. So she is a classic author, but she's not like super hard to read. But also a lot of her
Mhm.
mysteries are pretty short. She's Murder on the
Yes.
Orient Express. Anyone? I don't. If you guys don't know who
Mhm.
she is, although I think we mostly know who Agatha Christie is.
Mhm. Death on the
But
Nile, that kind
Death
of
on the
stuff.
Nile. Yes, exactly. Extremely, extremely talented. Just
Yeah.
the way that she crafts her mystery. If you guys write mysteries or want to write mysteries and you haven't read Agatha Christie, go do that right
Do it.
now. Because
Mhm.
even as I was reading this, because I've like toyed with like mystery elements in a few of my books, and it's just absolutely nothing. Even what I think of when I used to ghostwrite cozy mysteries, absolutely nothing compared to the craft that goes into all of her mysteries. It's crazy the way that she
They're so
it's just
intricate.
so intricate, like down to the tiniest detail, to the tiniest character backstory. So you start
Mhm.
out thinking none of these characters could have committed this murder. And then you're like, oh my God, all of these characters could have committed this murder.
Yeah.
And you truly are like, show me the person who
I
can
never
just
guess.
guess. Yeah.
Never
I don't
guess
know.
right.
My mom's really good at guessing, but I don't think she could do it with this either. So
Yeah. They all make
it's a good
sense, but
one.
it's like still not the person I anticipated. So
Yeah. And I'm also like really like happy with myself because I get books off thrift books a lot. And
Mhm.
I happen to find for like $4, it's like a collectible edition. It just looks like a really old vintage
Yeah, I love
paperback.
those. That's
But
awesome.
I know I love this too. But this one is actually like a collectible because there's not very many of them. And I don't really like, collect collectibles because I don't have the money to just go around willy-nilly collecting old books. But I was
Dropping
thrilled because
$200.
exactly. But I was thrilled because I guess it was or maybe it wasn't. This one wasn't off thrift books. This was off on Amazon. You can find used books too.
Oh,
And so I found it was a used book. They had like a bunch of used versions, and then I was going through the used versions, and there was this teeny little bookstore that happened to have a couple like used versions, and one of them was collectible. And I was like, wonder what that means. It's only like $4. I'll get it. And I did. And then it came in like a plastic like packaging and everything, like the plastic
Nice.
slips because it's like actually collectible. So
Mhm.
I'm quite pleased with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
So there'll
love
be a
it.
picture of that on the That Pretentious Book Club Instagram soon, actually, because I always post pictures of the books. But that's my book rec. I know it was long-winded, but it was in the Christmas spirit. So
Cool.
yeah. What about our word of the week?
Yes. Word of the week.
She
You
snapped
hear
that
that?
little postcard.
Latibule. Now, the internet suggests that British people pronounce it
Latibule?
Latibule.
Latibule.
Latibule. But I don't know how seriously to take the internet sometimes. So I'm gonna say Latibule. Latibule.
I'm gonna say Latibule.
Yeah, like hyperbole, Latibule. All right, so Latibule. It is a small hiding place, a cozy, safe space hidden away, which I love. I'm thinking like treehouse, or even like people on a spy mission that have to hide in like a little alcove.
That is so cute. I want a Latibule.
I know. Or like, oh, the perfect Latibule would be like a window seat that has a curtain over it, and you can just like put stuff up on the walls and then just curl in and read a book with
I have always
the window.
wanted a window seat like that too for a Latibule. I guess it's like vestibule, actually, so Latibule, vestibule.
Yeah, it probably is. You're right.
Yeah. but I'm going to start saying vestibule too.
Yeah, exactly. They sound like bones when you say it that way.
Vestibule.
Like the
The
latibule
latibule is
bone.
connected to the vestibule. Like they have like that song about what all the bones are connected to. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't remember any of them.
I know.
I
know head, shoulders, knees, and toes, which is not about the bone structure.
I know. So does Grayson. So does my niece.
Yeah.
She loves that
Yay, we're
one.
on the same page.
I know, same. I know about what an 18-month-old knows.
Yeah.
So woohoo. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my Ketterdam sweatshirt that you got me. I pretty much exclusively wear the sweatshirts that you got me. I realized like for the last
they're comfy,
month
right?
and a half, they're so comfy, and it's like we don't have like a heater in here, and so I have like a little plug-in one I need sometimes. But for the most part, with one of these sweatshirts on, I'm good.
Yeah,
so
they're fun.
Yeah.
I like them.
Anyways, should we get into the theme for this episode?
Yes. So I have to explain what this kind of is. So I want to talk about spoilers, but not necessarily like reading spoilers, more like as an author, when you are marketing your book, at where's the line between spoiler and marketing? Because I think a lot of people blur the line, and
I agree.
It kind of annoys me, so I just want to talk about it.
It super annoys me because then I won't buy the book.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing. This is the main one that kind of inspired me to that I noticed this the first time. It's the trope thing, right? And I know there's a lot of discourse on TikTok about whether or not tropes are a valid way to market a book and whether or not people are too obsessed with them and stuff. Tropes are fine. Tropes are great. Tropes have always existed. That's not the debate today. The debate is whether or not the trope is a spoiler, because if you tell me that your book is enemies to lovers, I am now no longer interested in reading it because I know the ending. Yes. I know that they're going to end up lovers. And the whole, the good part about an enemies to lovers is the will they, won't they, right? Yeah. It's like, ooh, is there some chemistry here, or do they just hate each other? And if that's spoiled at the beginning, I feel like it can ruin it. I feel like that's an across the board thing with enemies to lovers, but it does depend with other tropes. What were you going to say?
I don't know. I'm considering it. Enemies to lovers it's tricky. It's like, I don't know how to say this. It's not going to sound offensive, but and I super don't mean it in an offensive way at all. Mm-hmm. I wanted to call them like cheap romantic tropes, and that's not what I really mean. It's like, I don't know how else to describe it. There's because they're not, cheap, they can be done very well, but it's almost like there's a group of, I guess if your target audience is a certain group of people who are into the romance, NA romance, or YA romance, or romantic fantasy, whatever, like a subgenre of romance. And they're in it just for the vibes of it, basically. Like there are some people who will pretty much exclusively read enemies to lovers, and they will seek it out for that. So I guess part of it is knowing what your audience is, but I feel like unless that is specifically your audience, is the people who just consume loads and loads and loads of the same type of romantic content. Think TikTok. I feel like the people who get really into a TikTok trend about that. Unless that's your target audience, then I agree. I think that it does spoil it to list the trope. But if that's your target audience, then it helps you out a lot, actually. But that is a smaller target audience than I think you could otherwise have.
Right. Because I think if you go broad, and again, it's hard with marketing. I'm not going to claim to be a marketing expert, but you want your book, I assume, to appeal to as many people as possible, because that's how you generate sales and how you generate conversation and how you reach the most people, which I assume is a goal of yours. And if you're too specific in the trope, not only are you now turning off people that don't tend to like that trope, but who might otherwise like your book, you have now spoiled things for the people that might like it, but, like me, who are now, the mystery is gone. They know where that subplot is going, and that can kind of ruin it. So I think also friends to lovers can kind of be this way, although a little different, because typically you have one enemy and you have multiple friends, not all the time. So it depends how you write it.
Multiple dudes. Yeah.
So if you have, if there's an enemies to lovers where there's 3 or 4 enemies, and you say this is enemies to lovers, okay, I don't know which one it's going to be. I can still be into that. Tell me that there are multiple ones, so I know that going in, so that I'm not, refusing to read it because I think it's been spoiled. But that can totally work, because now the mystery is there again. Same with friends to lovers. If there's usually it's a girl because that's just the main character in YA, which I'm thinking of. If there's a girl and she has multiple guy best friends or multiple guys in her life, and you're saying this is going to be a friends to lovers, great. I don't know which one it's going to be, but if there's one friend or if there's one enemy, then I know. And it's so frustrating. And I think about a lot of books that I read that I would qualify as enemies to lovers or friends to lovers before I got on TikTok and before I realized that that was like a big trope thing. And I enjoyed books, I think, a little more before TikTok because I saw it. You see the patterns when you read a lot. You know, a guy comes onto the scene and you're like, love interest.
Yeah.
But you don't know where it's going to go and how.
Yeah, like the back jacket description of a book, you can usually sense if it's going to be friends to lovers. Like it's so and so and her childhood friend. You're like, probably friends to lovers, but there's still the uncertainty where maybe it isn't going to be, and you don't know for sure. It's also part of, and you can do the same thing with enemies to lovers, where you can usually tell when it's in the description. But there is a certain marketing in it, specifically as an enemies to lovers or friends to lovers, does pigeonhole your book. And I guess from a marketing perspective, because I do work in marketing, it all depends what your goal is. If your goal is to just serve your like teeny tiny pigeonhole audience, and you can be really successful doing that, you can have a whole career. Romance authors exclusively serve a very target audience, and that's their whole career, and that's fine. But if you want it to appeal to more than just your tiny little pigeonhole audience, you do need to make it broader. Now, you can't make it everybody like it, no matter how you market it or how you write it, because that's too broad. It's kind of like if anyone has ever like boosted or paid for an ad on social media, on Facebook or Instagram, like the wider you set your audience, the actual like less engagement you typically get because you're being too general. So there's a balance there. You don't want to be so specific that you miss out on potential readers, but you don't want to be so general that with the way that you market it, that you don't appeal to specific readers too, which I think that's where people are like overcorrecting with saying it's got this trope and that trope. They're trying to identify, they're trying to connect with their target audience, and they're accidentally excluding what could have also been a really viable market. And so I think that there's a balance, unless you are trying to connect exclusively with a teeny little target market. And it's okay if you are, but unless that's your goal, you have to be so careful with saying my book has this, my book has that. Even with like talking about like what happens in your book or what kind of character it is, like a tough, independent female. Okay, well, first of all, a lot of books have that, so I guess that's almost a little bit general, but it's also almost too specific because that's something that readers should learn about when they read the book.
They should get that from the writing, not from your marketing.
Yeah, I think not a bad way, I feel like, to approach like what you want to like hit home about when you're marketing your book is like what's included in your pitch. Okay, now maximize on those elements. And when I pitch, I don't mean like your full like elevator pitch. I mean like your log line, your one sentence pitch. What did you say in that? Okay, now hammer home all of the elements and break down what's in your one sentence pitch. Like I think like a Harry Potter one line pitch, for example, because we all know the story, would be like, when 11-year-old orphan Harry Potter is visited by a magical, person from another realm and finds out that he's a wizard, crazy adventure ensues. General, but specific about the plot. And it also lets you know what the genre is, but it's not like so overly specific about like what kind of person is Harry? Is there romance? Is there not? What kind of adventures are there? So it's general enough, but still specific enough. You want it to be specific enough the way that you market your book, that your book is unique, and that you've communicated my book is unique, and that you communicate the type of genre it is, because some people are genre specific. That's not uncommon. I feel like that's pretty normal to market to a specific genre. That's not pigeonholing, but not so specific that you say my book is exactly this one way and has XYZ elements, and then people who like Karissa who don't like those elements or will not read it. People like me won't either, actually.
Yeah,
pretty normal.
It depends on the tropes and stuff. And I think what it comes down to, kind of what you're saying, is you want to market to your premise, but not the plot elements of your book. Yes. And I think it's a mistake. And again, I don't know their sales. I don't know if this is working for people, but I think it's a mistake when people market their plot points instead of their premise. And I know because it's really hard to come up with, especially on TikTok where you're supposed to post a lot, it's hard to come up with new content about a premise because the premise is kind of set in stone. It's just a couple things. And so I think sometimes authors will reach into the plot points to get content to make TikToks and market and Instagram posts and stuff. But I think that can do a disservice because now I almost know too much. And I might skip over your book if it's between that and another one, if I know less about the other book, because if they're both intriguing and they both sound like something I would like, I know less about this one. I'm going to be more surprised. There's more mystery to it, and I might pick that one instead.
I agree.
So I guess this is also a tip when you're coming up with your pitch, is you have to think about the premise of your book. It needs to be unique, but it has to contain only the details that someone is going to pick up in like the first chapter anyway. It can't be something too like extrapolated out. It can be if it's obviously going in that direction. So like with Harry Potter, he doesn't end up at Hogwarts until like what, chapter 10? But that could be a element in your pitch. But it's still the kind of thing that we see coming because we mentioned Hogwarts, I think, in like the first couple chapters. So you want to make sure that you're not going too far into like the ending or hinting at the ending or hinting at this plot twist when people don't know the premise yet and they're not attached to the characters yet. And I think that's where tropes go wrong usually, because tropes can be premises, but they can also be plot elements. And I think it depends on which they are, if you should market to that. So like, for example, found family. I love found family. I will be sold on basically anything found family. But you really should only tell me if it's a premise, not a plot point. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've read Six of Crows. I think it would be okay to market this as a found family. And I think it kind of was, because all of the most of the characters at least, that exist in the found family are introduced very early on. And they have relationships and friendships and romances with each other. Sorry.
No, you're good.
They have these relationships with each other that exist. And then the story is told to take them deeper as opposed to creating that bond after all this time, right? I think Harry Potter could count as a found family as well, but I wouldn't use that in any kind of marketing for it, because it doesn't happen until he meets Ron and Hermione and everyone else.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially even if you think about like book 5, when Luna Lovegood and Ginny Weasley kind of come into the found family, like that's really far down the line. You wouldn't want that to be your marketing for book 1. And so it depends a lot if your trope is the premise, part of the premise, or part of the plot. The chosen one trope is similar to, if we can assume by chapter 1 that we're talking a chosen one story here, use it in your marketing. If it's supposed to be a twist, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that at all until the twist.
I think if you're having trouble figuring out, like, is this a part of the premise or part of the plot? I think saying, is this a part of the backdrop of the story? Then it's probably part of the premise. So the Six of Crows, for example, the story begins and they're all already kind of have that found family. It's almost a part of the setting of the story. It's part of setting up the story. It's the backdrop of everything that takes place, but it's not a part of the plot. Like, it doesn't happen in the book. Same with in Harry Potter, opposite in with Harry Potter, where Hogwarts is the setting. So I think mentioning Hogwarts in the pitch and marketing it around like this magical school, that's part of the backdrop of the story, where the story takes place. It already existed prior to the story that's happening. So not a big deal. You can talk about it in your pitch or marketing stuff. But like if you said found family for that, then you're giving away something that hasn't happened yet. So also I think if it existed in your character's world prior to the story you're about to tell about the character, you're probably a little safer. That's not to say always. Sometimes like prophecy stuff like that's like way before your character you don't want to reveal, because sometimes that's a twist too. But you could say there's a prophecy. Wouldn't go into details about the prophecy. But I think if it existed prior to your character actual story that you're
like chapter 1.
Prior, like in chapter 1 or prior, I think that you're good to go for that. It's almost kind of like you're selling. It's weird. I'm trying to think of the way to say this. It's like the way that you market your book, I'm just going to talk and hope that it comes out in a coherent way.
Do it.
The way you market your book is you're trying to convince people why they should read your story without telling them what the story is. It's like you're just trying to like get them on board the train, you know?
You're
like,
giving them nuggets.
Yeah, you're giving them nuggets, but not about anything that happens in the story. Like you want to get them on board. They have to go through the door first. They're not going to see the rest of the house, which is the rest of your story. You're just trying to get them through the door. So show them the facade, show them what the story looks like on the outside, show them what led up to this, but don't show them what's behind the door, if that makes sense, because then that's plot points and then you're spoiling stuff. And
Mhm.
I think that's a big bummer because same if I have to pick between a book where I feel like part of the plot was spoiled for me in the marketing versus a book that I don't really know that much about except what a cool premise, I'm gonna always pick that one.
Yep. Okay, I have two things. Do I want to give the example first? Yeah, I'll give the example first. So I'm going to spoil City of Bones by Cassandra Clare if anyone hasn't read it. Have you read it?
No,
Do you know what happens?
kind of. I know bits and pieces, so I'm not worried
Okay.
about it.
Okay. I don't know. It was enormous, and I still love this book. Criticize it, and I get it, but I love it. So if you were to market City of Bones, I don't remember how it was marketed. It was a while ago. You would market it on the premise of like Clary, the main character, finding out that she's part of this secret magical society, right? You wouldn't market it on the basis of a forbidden romance, even though that is in there, because you don't find out it's forbidden until the end.
Yeah, I totally know what
Because
you're talking about.
the twist is that, they're
You'd be giving away your
related.
whole twist.
Yeah. And the whole time, like when they're getting to know each other, there's really no obstacle in their way, right? They're just getting to know each other, deciding if that's something they want to pursue. Is Clary a shadow hunter? Is she not? What's going on? That's
Yeah.
the obstacle. It's not a forbidden thing, but it becomes forbidden at the end when you're like, oh no, they're related.
Or are they?
And yeah, exactly. Dun dun dun. So in that example, I think if you've read it, you can kind of understand in these terms as well. First of all, it's a subplot. And I don't know, you can use subplots in your marketing, but I don't know that that's necessarily part of your premise and going to be the best way to get people on board. But also, that's the twist in the book. And you don't want to say, ooh, there's some forbidden element. Would it still have worked if we had known that there was a forbidden element coming? Probably, but it probably wouldn't have been as good. Because I remember it being like super shocking. I mean, I read it within, I think, the first 2 years it came out. I was stunned. I don't think you achieve the same surprise if you are hinting at it even that little bit. So you want to make sure that, like I said, you're sticking to your premise and not the subplots. And I know that for a lot of people that are writing, this is very common again in YA, there's usually a romantic subplot. And I know you want to hint at the romantic subplot in your marketing because that's what gets people hooked a lot of times. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can hint that there's a romance. You just drop a name. That's usually all it takes.
It's really all that it takes.
People pick up on it. It's fine. But I wouldn't go into too much detail about the tone or the shape of the relationship, if it's forbidden, if it's friends to lovers, if it's enemies to lovers, because it just, I don't know, I think it can ruin that factor, the surprise factor. And that I do think that the twist is an important piece of most books that are going for twists. So
I think so. Do you think, because I feel like a lot of authors feel this way, that your quote unquote personal, but it's really like your author account, you can be more frank about what's in your book because it feels like you have a smaller audience? Because I feel like that's what authors, or a lot of authors, are coming from. I feel like in their like official like paid marketing, like the book jacket cover, the way that they like do like paid ads and stuff, the way they market on platforms where they're not connected with their necessarily, or they don't feel like they're connected with their readers, like in a more one-on-one way, like in TikTok, because TikTok is huge for marketing now. I feel like a lot of authors, that's why they feel comfortable to say it's got this trope or this thing happens in the book.
Yeah.
I still don't like it, but do you feel like there's more of a place for that if you're doing it in a certain social setting, or no?
I think I mean, yes, but mostly no. Because I think if you're an author, and obviously if you're a debut author, this is different, but if you're an author, you have multiple books out there, and people might be following you because they've read one book, but not another. And so you might be spoiling them for the book they haven't read yet. And I don't think you can even say to yourself, well, this is the older book, so I can spoil certain pieces about that. Because I often read out of order. If I discover an author 3-4 books in, it's usually their third, fourth book that I discover first, and then I go back. So I just think you need to be aware, even if people are following you, like your author account, or coming to see you speak, just because they have read one of your books doesn't mean they've read all of them. And just because they've read the first half doesn't mean they've read the second half. Maybe they really love the first half, so now they're going to this event, or now they're following you. And you don't necessarily want, I mean, I read books very quickly, but some people take a couple months to finish a book. And so you don't want to, in the meantime, spoil them for things that are going on. I'm very big on don't spoil anything. I hate spoilers. It's like my biggest
and I think
pet
it's
peeve in terms
safer.
of
I think that people feel more like TikTok specifically is the exception to the rule, I don't think that's really true. I guess if you were going to
Yeah.
say there was like one marketing setting where you could do that more, it would be TikTok because it is so informal. I still feel like it's not that great of an idea. Kind of a way
Right.
around of it, I think, is it's not necessarily spoiling because I've done this before with books that I've not my books, but books that I've talked about. It said like oh, this book has enemies to lovers vibes. But I only use that when there's not actually an enemies to lovers romance. Just
Right.
maybe if there's like an enemies to lovers like flirtationship between multiple characters, or
Or
just like
lovers to
characters that would,
enemies,
yes, which would be good.
because
And
it's
so
similar vibe wise.
exactly, because it's similar vibe wise. So I think you can use similar tropes and say, reminds you of this, has elements of that, has vibes like this. I think you can use those. You still do run the risk of pigeonholing yourself, but not as badly as if you say, this book has this trope. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then also when they read it, at least they'll still get a spoiler if you were just saying it has elements of this. Because there's like one book that I've described as and I won't spoil it for you guys by saying what it is since I'm about to explain what I said about it. But I said it has enemies to lovers vibes. Does the enemy and the lover get together? No, they don't. And actually, the end romance of the series is wonderful. Completely unexpected, though. That series has like about every good romantic trope one can have. And none of them results in the romance you would think. And it's so good and it's so authentic. So I wouldn't feel bad, describing it like that, but saying it has those vibes. But again, if I'm marketing my own book, I'm still going to be careful about doing that because, I mean, this last book I wrote does have enemies to lovers vibes, but I don't want to be pigeonholed and I don't want to give a spoiler by saying it has those vibes. I mean, nothing has officially happened between the characters, but if it does, I don't want to have spoiled it in the first book.
Exactly.
I think you also have to think about, like, if you don't know exactly what you're going to do with your characters yet, how you're marketing your first book is going to affect what people think about following books. So it's all connected.
Well, and you have to think about the combination of tropes you're using. So if you have a love triangle and one would be an enemies to lovers and one would be a friends to lovers, you don't want to tell people which one she's going to pick, because then that spoils that. Why have a love triangle at that point? It can, so the combination of tropes can also be important. But also off of what you were saying, I'm starting to realize I really like comp titles. If you liked this book, you like this one. I didn't really used to. Yeah, it is. And I hate it because it's really hard to come up with them. But I do think that as a reader, I am more receptive to that than tropes. And I think as a writer, it hits more accurately than tropes because the problem with tropes is that they can accidentally be misleading. So like you said, enemies to lovers vibes is different than enemies to lovers. If you say there's enemies to lovers, and it doesn't play out the way that someone is expecting, that might completely change their perspective of the book. They otherwise might have loved it if it had been a surprise, but because it's not what they anticipated, they might end up hating it. So I noticed that a lot of times people just don't deliver on what they are saying because they are being tangential, but they don't say that they're being tangential. They mean enemies to lovers vibes, but they say enemies to lovers.
And I think there's other ways to say it too, is we've also, I feel like, just become a little bit lazy. And especially I think about this a lot because we use the word vibes now a lot. And we use it as like a catch-all for like makes you feel like, or sort of, something in that realm. There are actually ways to say that. Like you could say, if you like a book that has a lot of like romantic tension, you could say that. There you go. Okay. And that could mean, that could incorporate all kinds of tropes that we like, not all of them, because typically friends to lovers isn't as tense. So it gives you a bit of a feeling involved, but not as exact of a feeling.
Not as spoilery.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of why I described it as sounding cheap too, is because when you describe your book in tropes or even in vibes, you can, but it just feels lazy, and lazy to me feels cheap as far as writing goes, because typically in high quality work, so much effort goes into it. You can't be lazy. So it all feels kind of lazy and kind of cheap to market that way. Some people are doing it on purpose specifically, like I said, because that's what their readers specifically want. And that's okay as long as they're doing it on purpose, be intentional. But I think just being more specific with your language and even looking at the way that books used to be marketed more. Like if you want some alternate marketing tips, blurbs, get blurbs from other authors that were in the same genre. That's a great idea. Have a competition for inspiration art, or actually make the prize something people actually want, so they'll actually enter. And if you're a new author, that's really important, that when you do giveaways or when you do competitions for fan fiction or competitions for fan art, that you always give a prize that enough people will want, and you promote it enough that people enter it. Otherwise, what's the point? But there's a lot of other ways to market than telling people what your book's about. You can just give them the general feeling of it without getting into the details, which is, I mean, that's the way marketing is supposed to work anyways. You've seen the commercials nowadays. You often don't even really know what it's about till you look to the logo in the bottom. Yeah, it's just for vibes. So you want to deliver vibes, but without saying the word vibes or being overly specific. So
I agree. And this is why, this is why I think comp titles are so great and why I think they're important now. I think because it's a comp title, and obviously you can take this too seriously and miss what I'm about to say, but of course you are not saying that your book is exactly like this book, right? When someone says, if you liked this, you'll like this, they don't mean it's exactly the same. They usually mean vibes. It's usually what they mean.
Elements of, it
can have totally different plots.
Elements is how you write it in a query letter, which by the way, these rules we're saying is for marketing to consumers, not marketing to a literary agent, because sometimes you do want to tell, especially now they're asking for what tropes are in this book. They're asking for what's the twist. So that's okay to include in your query letter. Just know we're not saying this is not how to market yourself to an agent. We just did an episode on query letters that has a lot more specific advice for how to market yourself to an agent, because that is exactly what you're doing. And it's not at all the same approach for consumers. This is for consumers. And if you guys are self-published, sorry to tell you, you are on your own for marketing.
You got to know this stuff.
Really hard. You do have to know this stuff, and you have to be willing to trial and error and not give up, and kind of shell out a bit of money. Because here's the problem: if you're not willing to pay for ads and stuff, all of your competition is, and they're paying a lot. So, so just know it's hard.
Unfortunate. But comp titles can help because they allow you to not be exact, but still get the vibes across. Now, the problem with comp titles is it is possible that someone that would really like your book hated the book you comp it to, which is why you want to be careful and why I think you need to pick books you can stand by. So make sure you've actually read the book and that you liked the book and that you can actually say, I would recommend this in a vacuum, not just I'm using it to jump off of for my own marketing.
And comp multiple titles. Don't just comp one book over and over again. And this is also a good idea for content creation is huge for marketing now. It didn't used to be. Now it is. And content creation is free. So if you guys are looking for a way to also develop more marketing material, comp titles is excellent because you could do like you could literally do a video that's all about what I love about this comp title, what I love about that comp title, and you don't even have to call them comp titles. And guess what? You're going to use, if you use the right hashtags, if you comment on the right forums, you are now ingrained in your target audience. So then they'll be like, oh, this person gets what we liked about this. So then when you have something to say like, hey, by the way, this book came out, they'll be like, oh my God. And you'll already be present in all of those threads. So that's part of just being involved in the industry. That's what we mean when we say keep up with the industry and be involved in the industry, is doing stuff like making videos about comp titles, posting about comp titles, commenting on forums about comp titles, joining Facebook groups that are dedicated to a comp title. Because the comp title readers, those are your readers. If you don't know what your target audience is, figure out your comp titles. Yes, it's very hard. And yes, you actually do have to read those books, but figure out your comp titles. Those are your audience. And so you can also see what those authors are doing to market their books to that audience.
To reach the same audience. Yep.
Yes. And you'll see that the bigger authors do not specifically say what happens in the plot. They do not say it got this trope or that trope, because you can't be like really big and reach a really wide audience doing that.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into this too much. Did you hear about the Lightlark drama?
No. Lightlark? Is it on Book Talk? Because
it is.
Book Talk makes me so sad I don't go on it.
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's fine. You'll still understand. If you do know what I'm talking about, then you have a little more information about this. But Lightlark was essentially this book that was promoted on TikTok, and she got the book deal because of the TikTok video success and stuff. And she marketed it with a lot of tropes. And the book recently came out and it bombed in terms of reviews. People were saying that, that she didn't deliver on what she said the tropes were going to be, that they thought it was badly executed, that it was just really poorly written. And this is the problem with wanting too many tropes in your book, is that you get so hung up. Yeah, you get hung up on meeting these perceived desires of readers and saying, well, I have to cram in an enemies to lovers, or I have to cram in a chosen one. And then it comes across really inauthentic, and readers sense that, and you're not working on it as hard. And it's also true, I think, that sometimes books that are really easy to market in terms of tropes, like if you do fit cookie cutter into an enemies to lovers, I think people tend to work less hard on them because they know it's going to sell anyway.
Yeah.
and they don't put the same kind of editing or time into it. And that's
Yeah.
really disappointing from the reader perspective, obviously. And
Yeah.
it's not even that you're necessarily a bad writer. It's that
Mhm.
you don't feel the same push to make it the best
Yeah.
it can be because you're not
But you
worried
know,
about that
but
factor.
it's not as disappointing as when you market yourself inaccurately. So
Yes.
when you say that you have something in your book that you don't, which is something
Mhm.
that's especially I think where self-published and or newer authors tend to do, is because they're like, I'll just, say it's got XYZ in it, even if it really doesn't that
Just
much
to
have
get
it in
people
it,
to read
just to
it.
get, yeah.
And
I
it doesn't
think
work.
a book that's predictable based on how you marketed it is better than a book that's inaccurate. Because it's better for people
Yeah.
to feel disappointed than to feel tricked. Because if you disappoint them with
Yes.
one book, they might give your next book a try. If you
Mhm.
deceive them, they're never reading your next book again. They're not going to
I
do it.
agree. Yeah.
So be really careful. And also, literary agents hate that because it means
Yeah.
that you've wasted their time. So
Mhm.
do not say anything about your book that's not true. If your book is a cookie cutter friends to lovers, and that is basically what your book has going for it, okay, maybe that's what you push. Like, if that's
Maybe,
all
yeah.
your book has going for it. But then just know that's also, it's not going to be like this amazing, everybody in the world has read that book, but it could
Exactly.
still have a level of success.
Because people still want something different. They still
Yeah.
want to see something new. And that's why I
Yeah.
think trope marketing is so hard and why it's probably not the best way to go. Because
Mhm.
if you can market it that way really accurately, your story might be missing something and you might want to add
Yeah.
something to that story so that there's more for people that are used to that trope or have read a lot about that
Yeah.
trope.
Exactly.
And I'm not criticizing the use of tropes. I'm not even criticizing
We
using
love
tropes in your
tropes.
marketing. Like I
Yeah.
said, if you start out with a found family like Six of Crows, market it that way.
Yeah.
But don't spoil me. Don't tell
Yeah.
me where it's going. I want to
Yeah.
not know. Even if I can kind of guess, I want there to be that tension of, "Oh, but what if it's not?"
Yeah.
You know?
Don't spoil your story. Don't lie about what's in your story. I feel like those are the two general rules for marketing. And as
Mhm.
far as like, what should I market about my book? I think you're good to go. Pretty much anything else is fair game. Just don't spoil your plot. You can spoil
Yep.
your premise because the premise
Yes.
is why people want to read it. Spoil your premise all day long. And don't lie about what's in it. Don't even fudge the truth because your
Mhm.
readers have been reading for almost their entire lives. It's what
Yep.
they do. They're very proud of it. Same with literary agents. They will be able to smell your deception a mile away and immediately be pissed
Yeah.
about it. So
Yep.
don't do it.
I call it, this is what I'm going to call it. It's the Goldilocks strategy, right? You know, like a Goldilocks
Ooh.
planet where
Mhm.
you focus on premise but not plot. And so you don't say nothing about the book so that no one cares, but you don't
Yeah.
say so much that people then cease to care again because they feel
Yeah.
like everything is in there. So, like the
Yeah.
Goldilocks, go middle ground. Give
Yeah.
me enough to be interested, but not enough to feel like I've already read the book.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I think this is why, if you guys look up, if you haven't already, y'all should, even if you're like, I'm not even anywhere near close to marketing my query letter, it's still a good idea to get used to these. Look up log lines for books and for movies. They're the one sentence pitch. The one sentence pitch has been crafted for exactly that. That's what is so
Mhm.
amazing about the one sentence pitch is when you get really good at writing them, they are exactly in the Goldilocks zone.
Yep.
And so while I know that that's just one sentence, and obviously you can't build an entire marketing strategy off one sentence, you can sure build a lot. You could build a lot of your marketing strategy off one sentence because
Mhm.
you can talk about the different elements that are all included. So
Yep.
I highly recommend looking up what's in the one sentence pitch because it's your Goldilocks pitch for everything. It's the perfect amount of mystery and here's what's here and the premise that make people want to read it. And if you're
Mhm.
having trouble writing your pitch for your book, you guys can reach out, get help, but it'll have to be from somebody who's already read it because it does
Mhm.
have to have that. And it's hard.
Has to be
And just
accurate.
keep writing it and rewrite it and write like 20 of them and then decide which one you like. But
Yep.
there's a formula and I wish I had it in front of me, but it's basically like when character does this or lives in this setting or a character from this setting experiences XYZ, the new event happens and they face enemy. And
Mhm.
then it's something about the stakes. And if they don't blah blah blah, then stakes happen. And when you
Right.
think of it like a formula, it gets a lot easier not only to write, but market. Because then guess what? You can market all of those elements. You could market the
Mhm.
when. You can market the setting that the character came from. You can market the setting that they're going to. You can market the challenge that they're facing, and you can market the enemy, and you can market what's at stake. That's a lot of elements, and you can market all of those in different ways. So there's a lot more in that one sentence pitch than it seems at first glance, which is why I
That's why it's
recommend
so
just
hard.
reading a bunch. Yeah, that's why it's so hard, and that's why the one sentence pitch is also so important. But I just recommend even just go read a bunch of one sentence pitches for books that are already out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think also just last point for me is obviously premises can be done badly. Like sometimes you read a book and you're like, I hate the way that this was done. But generally speaking, I think a premise is going to give someone a better idea of what is going on in the book anyway. If you talk about plot too much, people are going to come into that with assumptions about what you mean by that. And are likely going to be disappointed because they're probably relating it to like a comp title in their head. They have now compared that book to something else that they have read. And if it doesn't stack up, then they're going to be disappointed. Whereas a premise is in and of itself the context for the book. And so sometimes they're badly done. And sometimes you start reading and you're like, wow, this isn't what I thought this was going to be at all. But generally speaking, if you're into the premise, even if it's done differently, you're probably still going to like the book. I don't know, the plot is going to be the same thing, or character. You can kind of market characters. I've been seeing a lot of people market, like you said before, character art, where they'll commission or do a competition for someone to make character art for them. That can be a great way to market, and you put little details in the art. I don't know that I would go into too much detail about who the characters are, because that's like the point of the story. So
if like your character wears this like cool necklace that her mother gave her before her mother mysteriously disappeared, and that's included in the art. Ooh, what's that? That's interesting. Or like has some weird tattoo and you're like, ooh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's part of the story. I think
or if they stand in a certain way or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think the whole idea of marketing is that you want to make, this is just true across the board for books and anything else. You want people to want to know more. That's the whole idea. So if you tell them everything, they don't need to know more. If you don't tell them enough or the right stuff, they're not interested enough to know more. You want them to want to know more. So always leave a little bit of mystery. I kind of think context, like you said, plus character plus conflict. I think that's a great, just really simple formula for what to market about your book. And not in detail, not in too much detail, but here's the context for the story. Here's the character, very, very basic character elements. You guys don't get super deep into that. And then here's the overarching conflict and or what's at stake, which again, don't get in super into the details, but it's the part of your query letter that's like, or the back jacket that's like, and if they can't do so-and-so by the full moon, then the kingdom will crumble or whatever. That's okay, because the stakes are also part of getting people to be willing to read it. So just write out some material for your marketing and then go, if I read this, would I want to know more? Or would I feel like I already know enough?
Also, if you're writing something like fantasy or sci-fi, world building can be part of your marketing, and that's not spoilery. Unless there is a detail that is spoilery, then don't do that detail. But if you have like a certain magic system or a planetary system in your sci-fi or something, talk that up, because that'll draw me in. And I think if someone really likes fantasy or sci-fi or dystopian or whatever, that's the kind of stuff that's going to draw them in, because the world building is such an important part of stories like that. Also, if you're even writing like a contemporary book about a small town romance, talk about the town. Is it a real town? Did you live there? Do you know a lot about this town? Is it made up? What are some cool elements of the town? You can go into setting. Did you say that? Setting can be or world building can be a really important, or a really successful way to market, because it doesn't give much away, but it does create vibes, like we were saying.
And it sets you apart. It defines the aesthetic while it sets you apart from the competition, which is also the goal of marketing, is to say, here, come know more about this, and by the way, we're different than everyone else, we're better than them. And that's the idea, which can be difficult. But if you feel like you've got something that you're using for marketing and it's doing that, congratulations, it's the unicorn. It's hard, but that's the goal. Marketing is really hard.
It is. I mean, honestly, if you're like, gosh, I've done all of these things that they're saying not to do, I get it, because marketing is really hard. So it's
so much of it is
your
experimental.
fault.
So much of it is trial and error, especially with defining your target audience too, which is why I said a really good way to do it is to, first of all, be really, really specific and really honest about your comp titles, and then look at their audience. I think that by and large, that's the most accurate way to define your target market. Other than that, it's really hard. It is trial and error, because sometimes the people you think should be your target audience end up not being. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of like in New Girl, when Nick Miller writes this book, he thinks that his target audience is like blue collar workers on the coast of Maine. It ends up being like tween girls. So sometimes the target audience you have in mind is not necessarily your actual target audience. And the only way to know that is trial and error. He published the book and saw that tweens were buying it. I mean, that's often how it works. So don't get too hard on yourself, and you can usually recover too, especially if you've just started marketing your book. You can definitely recover from if you have made quote unquote marketing mistakes. There's no way to succeed but to fail first, so it's okay. Just be open to learning and trying new things. Marketing is just trying new things constantly.
Yeah. And just think about like how you define spoilers and what you would not want to know about a book beforehand, and then just don't talk about those things. Don't spoil people.
Yeah. I think that's pretty simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
That's all I had to say. I had more to say than I thought I would have to say, because I was like, what are we talking about? And what does that mean? And you're like, I'll explain in the pod. And I was like, excellent.
I got it. A lot of subjects, a lot of topics for this podcast come from TikTok. And I'm like, I don't really know how to explain why I was thinking about this, but here it is.
I can always tell when you picked a TikTok topic for the pod, because you'd be like, hey, what we're talking about this. And I'm like, this is just weird enough that I don't really comprehend the subject. I know it's from TikTok. And I'm like, and I always say, sure, because I need to be educated on TikTok, because it's like the one social media, like, I don't really keep up with it very well. So I need to know what's going on. So you're my resource.
I'm good. I'm good. Glad. I'm glad. Good. TikTok is weird because I think I like it more than other social media, but I can't tell how representative it is of the actual readership of the world. So I don't know. It's a weird one.
I know it is. That's exactly why it's weird. It's because you also can't say, oh, this worked marketing wise on TikTok, because it's like, how much can we say the TikTok audience is like your normal actual audience? I don't know. It's weird. There should be a study on it, and there probably will be. But anyways, do you want to tell me how your writing's been going? Because you kind of again blew me out of the water for like the 10th time this year.
Okay, so we skipped last week. But I did finish Nano. Woo! You're not going to hear this until it's absolutely December. But I did finish, and I finished on the 22nd or the 23rd because I stayed up late. So it was like into the hours of the 23rd, but I counted
felt better because I canceled on you for the last recording. You were like, it's fine, I'm writing. And I was like, oh, she's writing. I don't feel so bad.
And I love it so much. And it's so weird because here's the thing about it. So yet again, I'm writing in the same magical universe that I have created for myself, that I have like a series and 2 other books in now. Right. And I know the world so well. And I don't even know that I would say I have a formula, but I have certain things I tend to stick to in books because I like them. And this book is so strange for me because it's like a straight up tragedy. Like, it is so sad. So on the 22nd/23rd, I am sitting in my room and writing the last like 40-ish pages for 2 hours, sobbing, just tears. The whole time. I would recover, and then I would write another line, and I'm like, nope, here they come again. And I was just sobbing. And this is why I accidentally turned into an alley when I was trying to go to Thanksgiving, because I finished it. When was Thanksgiving? I think I finished it the day before or 2 days before Thanksgiving, whenever that date turns out to be. And I was just in this funk. I'm still kind of in it because I'm just so sad. I don't know.
Oh my God.
How. And here's the thing. I can't talk to my family about it. Do I love my family? Yes. Are they amazing? Yes. None of them are readers. And none of them get it. So there are a few family members that if I said this to them, they'd be offended and they'd be like, I am a reader. And I'm like, but you're not like obsessed like I am. Yeah. I'm on another level. Not that I'm better than you, but that I am so much more obsessed with this that you cannot even comprehend. And so I can't tell my family when I'm in like book comas or like writing, because they don't get it. And they'll be like, how are you? And in my head, I'm like, I'm depressed. How are you? But they'll think I'm like going to kill myself. And so I can't say that kind of stuff to them.
Book.
It's from this book that I wrote. And it's especially hard when I've written it because, the reaction is always, well, if it's so sad, why don't you just change it? And I'm like, you don't understand. Okay. The point was to make it sad. The point.
Shouldn't it be cathartic though? Why are you still sad afterwards?
I don't know.
I ask this as someone, not as a non-reader, as someone who I don't really write sad things. Because
I know.
And I don't even watch sad movies because they don't understand the whole concept of catharsis. But people have said to me they like sad stuff because it's cathartic. But it's sounding like that's not the case for you.
Sad stuff is weird. I will get in moods for sad things. I wouldn't say that I consume a lot of sad media, but for this one, I don't know. I don't want to give you guys too much because I don't want to spoil it, but for like years from now, but I'm trying to do this thing. I see this very common thing in YA books, and I'm trying to twist it and kind of give it like, here's realistically what would happen instead of the thing that
that's
normally
why it's
happens.
sad. You made it like real reality,
I made it realistic.
of course.
But it's I don't know, it's just so sad. And I did this thing where I wrote this line and it kind of echoes from the beginning of the book. So when it comes later, it's like in new context. It's a very common line. It's a thing that people say a lot. And I've ruined it for myself because now every time I hear someone say it or hear it or say it myself, I am taken back into the saddest part of the book and I can't get away from it.
I want to know what it is. Text it to me if you want to say it on the pod. I want to know what it is.
Okay, I'll text it to you. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling. It was just so sad, and I can't change it. I can't, because the whole point of this book was to be sad in this way. And when I planned it, I didn't know the characters well, right? Because I usually start with plot. So I started with this one moment, and I built everything else around it. And I didn't like I went into my notes for this book. I had a note that said, in order for this to work, so and so will have to be really likable. And I made so-and-so too likable because by the time I got there, I couldn't change it. It was too much part of the plot, but I was sobbing as I did what I did. And it was...
You killed someone.
Maybe.
Or multiple people.
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But it's just very different.
Still actively crying.
I know. It's just, and then I did an extra stupid thing, and I made a playlist of a bunch of sad songs to get myself, like, as it was happening, I was like, I just need some sad piano music. So I got some sad piano music and a couple of extra songs, and now those songs, every time I hear them, are taking me back. And it's this bubble of can't get away from it. And here's the thing, it's not even good yet. Okay, I would not show this draft to a single soul. I'm ashamed that I have seen it, but the potential is just so there. And so I haven't actually started editing it. I'm afraid to edit it because I think it's going to be really bad.
Is this a spin-off of your whip? I know you said I just don't remember.
No.
It's not. Okay.
Like the one that you read? What do you mean?
Spin-off of that one. It's
not. No, it's same worlds. And it does take place in the past, but not that far.
Oh, same world. That's what I was. Mixed up. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know.
It takes place before that one?
No, it's after, and it's in a completely different part of the country, so they're not related at all. And I love it, and I love the themes that are going on in it. Like I said, there's a little bit of like the moral law versus legal law, and
continue.
It's okay. I guess I'll say that. So it takes place in a city named Sloth, be like the sin, not the animal. And so a lot of it is about like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I love that theme. It's not good yet. I haven't driven things home the way that I want to. There are so many plot holes. There are these two characters. They're really important, and I cannot pin down their motivations. I'm like, why are you doing this? I know you need to do it, but why are you doing it? Yeah. And so I have to go and do all that work. And so I'm adding a subplot to kind of bring things together. And there's all kinds of stuff. Anyway, this is a really chaotic update, but
I'm enjoying it. Was just, you're excited.
Yeah. You're welcome. But it was weird because I have finished Nano. I have now completed Nano. I am a winner. I've never done it where I've written during Nano.
Yeah.
Woo! I'm so excited. And I completed my perfect writing year, as I talked about on the last episode. I'm so excited. I couldn't even be happy. I finished it and I sat there at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, everything is awful. I think I destroyed my own faith in humanity accidentally.
Of course you did.
So I don't know. It's the kind of book that, and here's another problem. I cannot query this book because I do not want this to be my debut book because it will pigeonhole me into a certain type of book that I don't think I'll ever write anything like this again.
Yeah.
I don't really want to.
What Nano is for.
I think it would kill me. I laid on my bed like the day after and I was like, my chest feels empty. Like, I don't even feel like I have a heartbeat right now. It was like that stomach sinking, heart stopping thing. And here's the thing. I'm going to give you guys some comp titles. Okay. If you have ever read The Last Voyage of Poe Blythe, which is by Ali Condi, who wrote Matched. I don't know a lot of people who've read this, but if you read that one, or if you've read Hold Me Like a Breath by, I think Allison Schmidt is her name. These books have nothing in common except the absolute tragic vibe to them. And if you liked that, you will love this one, because
Wow.
I went in with that feeling in my head, because again, I love these two books. I hate them, but I love them. And I was going for like a twist on what they did, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I achieved it effectively, but in terms of the story, I achieved it. And so that was the goal, and it came out really sad. So I don't know. I'm just sad now. And I can't talk to anyone about it but you, because no one else will get it. And it's really weird to everyone else I know. So
That's funny. Well, I think it
what
sounds
else?
fantastic.
I'm excited. I think it's a really good book. Again, not yet, but I think once I edit it and fix all the plot holes and stuff, I think I have most things worked out now. I just have to put in the work to do it.
Yeah.
I think it will be really good. And one day, I think if you like other books that I have published previously, by this time, hopefully I will have published books previously, I think you'll like it. But I don't know that if you like it first, you would like other things I've written. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's more the outlier.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I made everyone too lovable.
Of course. And
then I destroyed them.
Huh? Yeah. Sounds about right. God,
It's just really
you and Kendall
tragic.
both like to do that, and I don't understand it at all.
I feel like you're not even understanding like what I mean by, like, not that you're dumb, just that I don't know how to explain it to you without spoiling it.
No,
like,
I know you can't.
It's a
So I'm
different
just assuming
kind.
that there's death. I'm just assuming it's sad, and then I'm amplifying that because I know you did something weird with it. So I'm like, I know it was not just killing a beloved character, because that's too basic for you.
It's worse. It's so much worse.
Great.
So I cry, and I'm still crying every time I hear the certain songs that I have picked for this. I just start to cry. And sometimes, I'm just laying in bed and I'm like, you know what? I'll just think about the plot holes and try to figure them out as I'm going to sleep. And then I end up crying, and it's
wow. Yeah, I never
fun.
want to write never ever want to write a tragedy. Thanks.
I don't know. It's not really fun, but it's great, if that makes any sense. For those of you that write sad stuff, do you get me?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. I've never understood it too, because I remember reading, especially Hold Me Like a Breath. So this book is how fast can I do this? It is like a kind of dystopian, but not far in the future kind of world where organ donation is not legal. So there are these 3 crime families that get organs to give to people. Whoa. So they're like this morally gray, like they're criminals, but they're doing a good thing. And it's like this duology that revolves around the kids of the 3 crime families and how they're kind of interrelated. And it's just, Let Me Like a Breath is so
an interesting
sad.
premise. See,
it's
right
very
there
cool.
Is a good premise marketing. That's
exactly
so good.
See
That's
how little I told you?
Yeah.
I told you the vibe and the premise, and I bet you want to read it if you like being sad.
I do, and I don't even like being sad. Now I want to read it. You should do all my marketing.
I know. So that, I don't know. That's the vibe I was going for. How many times have I said this? Where am I? I don't even know. Yeah. So sadness and tragedy. I don't know how to express to you the type of tragedy that it is. So it's a tragedy, but I love it. And I think it's good.
For also completing it in NaNoWriMo, though.
Yeah,
you completed it early.
Exciting.
We were recording on the 30th of November. We were not even officially out of November, and she's like, "Yeah, I finished this a week ago. No worries." I didn't do NaNoWriMo at all, so I was gonna, and then I didn't. So what a shock.
I did this really cool thing too on TikTok where I made, you know how they do those things where it's like you pick like what your zodiac is and like the season you were born in or whatever, and you create a fantasy title. So I did that for Nano. So if you guys want to check that out on the TikTok for Scripturient Society. So it's like what your word count was, the first letter of your protagonist's name, and then your best writing day that you either finished or wrote the most words. Cool. So you create a fantasy title out of it, which is really fun. And I specifically crafted it so that the title kind of made sense for mine. But it doesn't actually, and I'm not going to use it, but it's fun. So
that's so cool. I need to go look at it. I haven't even seen that one. Fun.
But yeah, so sad. I feel like I had more substantive things to say about it. And I do not. So
well, now you're gonna take a break and do reading again now that you just finished writing a whole book.
I part of me wanted, a week ago, I said I was going to do an edit and then move on, because I like to come up with the edits that kind of occur to me as I'm writing and then do them immediately after so that I remember. 100%. But I couldn't make myself start reading this book again because I was too afraid. So I might
Maybe
start
you need
reading.
to
I might
read
try to do
something.
it.
You should start
Heavy.
reading something lighthearted first.
I should. Problem is I
Yeah.
don't like a lot of lighthearted things. I like bittersweet. This is what I like, to be a little sad, a little heartbroken, but ultimately hopeful and like with an epic element to the book. That's my sweet spot. The problem is that if I go too far to either extreme, the sweet spot doesn't help anymore. And so I don't have like many books that are on the extremes that I can go to. So
maybe you should read
know.
Six of Crows. It's
Yeah,
bittersweet.
that's
It's
true.
intense, but it's not a tragedy.
That's true. I should reread that soon.
Good. Yeah.
Anyway, what are your writing updates? Because I've been talking a lot.
Well, I didn't write anything because
okay.
as I said, husband got home, went on business trip, got back, babysat for 3 to 4 days. So my November ended up being like really crazy. So it's killing me too, because I have like 2 really good ideas right now for a book. I just need like the time to sit down and write. This is my recording week for TPBC now, because we went to every other week for that. So I probably won't be this week, but fingers crossed next week. The holidays are always a hard time for me to be like, start writing again, Ash.
I know.
There's so much going on. But I do have a whole week off after Christmas, and I thought I was going to use that week to write, but I just found out Javi's going to be here for the first half of the week, and then my mom has off the last half of that week. So I'm like, I'm just going to end up hanging out with people and not, which is good, because my mom almost never has time off, and Javi almost never gets to be home. So it's exciting, but I still want to get some stuff done. And I think I could probably write while Javi games, and he can just deal with the clickety clickety clack of my free write that I love.
Love it.
Other than that, it is. Javi hates it, and I'm like, you got it for me, so suck it up. Because he'll go, do you even use it? And I'm like, you hate when I use it around you. And I don't carve out much free time for myself when he's not here, because I basically just try and get everything possibly done I can get done before he gets home. So then when he's home, I can just hang out with him, even when he's just gaming and stuff. So the only writing I've been doing is my counselor's making me write a feelings journal, which I have made fun of so many times in the past. So I apologize if I ever made fun of a feelings journal around anyone. I am eating my words now, because for my last two counseling sessions, they started out with so how are you feeling today, Ash? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, how are you feeling this week? And I was like, how am I supposed to know?
Unclear. People don't know that about themselves.
Yeah. So just things here's what I like about counseling is, like, you really think you know yourself, especially when you're as arrogant as I am. You're like, I already know everything about myself. Then you do counseling, and it's like, I had no idea. So apparently the reason that I rewatch shows almost exclusively rewatch shows, I probably only watch like 2 or 3 new shows a year, is like super indicative of major anxiety. I had no idea. I was literally just talking about something my week and saying, oh yeah, and I was rewatching The Opposite. She was like, do you do that a lot? You rewatch those a lot? And I was like, pretty much entirely, yeah. And she's like, that's anxiety. So that's pretty strong anxiety. And I was like, interesting. Yeah. And then it turns out I also dissociate way more than I thought I did. And that's why I don't know how I'm feeling at any given time. And I'm not like the most expressive. Like, I will express my thoughts all day long. I'm not the most expressive about my feelings, and I never really have been. So anyways, I basically haven't expressed my feelings for so long that like I don't even know like what to say about them, or like how to like say how I'm feeling. And so she sent me a feelings wheel, and my homework for this week is that I have to, she said 10 to 20 feelings a day. Which, I mean, technically humans do typically experience a new emotion every 90 seconds. So that should be fine. She was like, only 10 to 20. She said it like it was nothing, like only 10 to 20 a day. Like, just take a second to process how you're feeling. Look at the feelings wheel if you need to. Just write down in your journal, this is how I'm feeling right now, just so you put it into words. And
every
I was like,
90 seconds?
No, just 10 to 20 times a day.
But like, that's how much we're supposed to change emotions?
We do every night. We just don't usually pay attention to it. And so I don't pay attention to it at all, ever, apparently.
Yeah.
And so now I have to, so I've only done it twice today too. So like, I think there's like, I wrote down like 3 feelings, and I was supposed to be doing it for days. And this is the first day I've done it. And I wrote down like 3 feelings, and I was like, oh, this is so much work.
Well, is exhausted an emotion? Can you put that down?
It is actually, yeah, tired, exhausted. And like the wheel, the way it works is like, it starts out with like really simple ones, like, I feel bad, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel happy. And then like as the wheel gets bigger, like every ring has like more specific feelings you can like break out into, which is very helpful too, because I'm like, it's so weird too, because people are always like, Ash, you're such a good communicator. Because of writing, like,
Yeah.
you're so eloquent. You're so able to express things, like not verbally, like through the written word or whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm so good at that. Until someone's like, but how are you feeling, Ash? And I'm like, Ash don't feel good. And like,
Yeah.
that's about as much as I can like
See,
figure out.
what you're good at is writing about what other people are feeling.
Yes. And then I just get dumb when it comes to me, where I'm like, I legit, even if I'm happy, I'm like, happy is
Mhm.
about the only word I can think of. Like, what? I'm
Right.
exuberant. Like, I don't know.
I'm
Like,
enthusiastic.
yeah, I'm like, I know a lot of synonyms. I mean,
Yeah.
um, anyway, so it's good, but that's basically the only writing I've been doing with my
Nice.
stupid feelings journal, which I feel so, you have no idea. The goth in me, and yeah, guys, I was goth when I was like for a whole year of my life, and there's very strong elements of that I have never given up. So the
This is
goth in
true.
me, the predominantly goth me, is still so mad about this. Like everything in me rebels against writing in a feelings journal. And I know I need
My
to.
gosh.
So
So in
that's what I've been
summary,
doing.
neither of us are okay
Yeah,
for very
pretty much.
different reasons.
In
I know way
summary,
too
we
much
both
how
had a
I'm
rough 2
feeling,
weeks.
and Ash doesn't know at all what she's feeling. So,
No. Yeah. Wow. Yep.
uh,
So we've had a rough 2 weeks without each other.
yep. Let's never do that again.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm super jazzed for our Christmas party episode. That's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. So that'll be
Hopefully,
good.
I'll be normal by then. I hope.
I'll
I
just
feel
be so
very
good at
off.
expressing my feelings by then. I'll be like, hi guys, here's how I'm feeling today.
How are you feeling? And we're gonna be like, I don't know. I don't have that kind of detail.
We're just gonna break down all our feelings. And some people get like more like expressive of their emotions when they drink too. And I don't think I really do. I'm already a loud person. I probably just get a little bit louder, to be honest. I get like a little crazy and clumsy, but again, it's just like my personality like dialed to 10.
Yeah.
So the things that I hold close to the chest get buried even deeper inside. I'm really not talking about shit now. And the stuff
Definitely not
I
talking
just
to
do
you
more.
about this.
Yeah. So I'm having some friends over this week, and I'm very excited because I probably see friends like a total of 3 times a year, aside from Kendall, who I see more often. I'm not good at being social because I'm always like, what if everyone actually hates me? Or what if they don't hate me now, but they're gonna hate me? Because that would be even worse, because then I would get attached first. So most of my friendships self-destruct pretty immediately, because I'm like, what if they hate me later?
Oh no.
Like, no thanks for that. But anyway,
That's what I thought about you when I first met you. I was like, I think she might secretly hate me. And that's obviously not true. So
I actually not so secretly hated one of our other friends from college immediately for absolutely no reason at all. Then I got over it. There was absolutely no reason for it.
Interesting.
Never you though. Are you kidding me? I was the one who was like, hey, you with the blonde hair.
I know.
Do you want a room with us, stranger?
I know. I thought you were just like pitying me.
No,
You invited me to stuff. I was like,
I can see her soul, and we're meant to be friends.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm going to see friends this weekend, and I'm excited because my counselor's like, just remember, Ash, just because you think something doesn't make it true. And I was like, well, that's objectively not true that you said it to me. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm trying to be better at talking about feelings and also at having friendships. So wish me luck on that. That's just Ash Corner for this week.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, God. Is there anything else we want to tell people, though?
Nope. I feel like I've rambled enough. Maybe I'll have more coherent thoughts next week.
I hope not. I enjoy the rambling. It makes me feel better about mine.
How many times can I just repeat, I'm sad and it is tragic and I don't know what I'm doing?
Probably about as
my
many
life
times
right now.
I say the word vibes every episode. I say vibes all the time.
Do you guys appreciate when we do this? Are you still here? Hello?
No, they're like, yo, we left like half an hour ago.
No one's listening at this point.
They tuned out after the first 10 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, if you guys didn't, if you have still stuck around this long, then you might as well just follow us on social media. We are Kirsten just toasted with an empty glass, by the way.
There's a little water in it, okay? I was finishing it.
Teeny bit of water. But anyways, you guys can keep up with us and enjoy all this nonsense and also the occasional tidbit of good advice and more by following us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok. We are the Scripturient Society. If you guys want us to talk about something specific in an episode, something you guys have been mulling over as writers yourselves, you guys can go ahead and reach out to us on social media. You can DM us or you can email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. That's our production company. We'll see it. We'll reply. We'll talk about it on the episode. Regardless, though, we would love to hear about what you guys are working on. We want this to be a writer's group, which we've said before. So we tell you guys what we're working on all the time. We would love to hear what you guys are working on. And we can always just noodle it around and figure out, like, you know, how to make it good. Because that's kind of what Chris and I do for each other. So we'd love to do that for more people too. And vice versa. It'd be great to get y'all's feedback. So if you guys enjoy the podcast, if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating below, that would be spectacular. And if you want to support the pod, you can go to patreon.com/storysirenstudio.com. And you can also get bonus content for our sister podcast there. And or you could go to storysirenstudio.com and you can check out our merch. We've got lots of cool stuff if you're a writer. So go check all of that good stuff out. I think that's everything we've got for you guys. So until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.